Honoring a legend. 7-time state championship head wrestling coach for the Fort Morgan Mustangs and 2001 National Wrestling Hall of Fame inductee, Stan Lampe. 1965 and 1966 state champion Larry Wagner.
We didn't want to let Coach Lampe down, and it was really not for me winning, but it was for not letting him down by winning. So that's kind of what our feelings were at the time. We just didn't want to let him down. Well, I think he kind of prepared us all year long, for that. He didn't really change anything. It's not like, here's the state tournament, now we got to do something different. We just did what we did better, during throughout the whole year. Say, it'd be nice to be undefeated in that. Well, that really never came into mind. It was just that, you want to go out and perform, and when you come off the mat, you want Coach Lampe to be happy with you. I remember one Christmas I went in, I was pretty fat going in, and I worked with Bobby Torres, who was weight above me. He was at 127, I think, was the weight. And I said, hey, Bobby, I'm kind of fat. It'd be okay if I wrestle your weight, and you're skinny. Can you go down? And he said, yeah, because we'll do that. So I go to Coach Lampe, and he's sitting in his office writing in a book or something, and I said, hey, Coach, I'm going 27 this week. He said, what? I said, yeah, Bobby and I worked it out. I'm going up a weight. He said, make weight or don't wrestle. I walk out of his office, and being a young punk, I said, does he know who he's talking to? I'm an undefeated state champ. But I made weight. I don't know what in particular he did that made you you felt like you wanted to win for him, not for yourself. That's how we felt. We didn't want to disappoint him. Well, we kept in touch, throughout the years. I can remember back in my early days at Club Luis, the first time I was a head coach just coming out of college, I would call him quite often and explain situations that I had. Back then, we were very competitive, and we'd have over 100 kids come out for wrestling, and so we had a lot of challenge matches and a lot of situations, kids with grades and some with attitudes, and I depended on him a lot to give me advice, although he would never, we'd get down to it, and I says, hey, should I wrestle Leonard or should I wrestle so-and-so? And he would never say, well, I would wrestle. He says, that's your decision to make. But he would give me input on it, and that carried on for years. So he had a big influence on us then. The two coaches that, Ramstetter and Lampe, that they had some characteristics, or I really can't put a finger on it, what it was, but you just didn't want to let him down. And I think through that, he's a very select coach and had a big influence on my life, and still does.
1972 state champion Robert Pogarels.
I think we all really respected Coach Lampe. I don't think anybody ever feared him. We just respected him, we liked him, and we would do anything that he asked of us. I've had the opportunity to be around a lot of amazing folks, coaches, other athletes, and but I think the person that stands out in my mind the most is Coach Lampe. His style of coaching, his style of being a friend and a teacher. As I go through life, I always reflect on his style, and that's what I try to emulate, where there was really no screaming, no jumping up and down, no belittling of his athletes or other people. He always took a very high road. I mean, if you were to look at him during a match, what I remember is that he'd be leaning back in the chair with his arms behind his head and never say a word. And the other coach would be jumping up and down and screaming and berating the referee or whatever it took. And what I admire most about the coach is that he did his work before the match, and he never really had to say much. I through my whole career with Coach Lampe, I never saw him become irritated or jump up and down and scream. He was always a very good role model.
1972 state champion Bob Bragg.
I'm very proud of Coach and what he did with I don't know, maybe hundreds of young wrestlers that he touched their lives and, made them better people, hard workers, just good people. But losing's not easy, but, it prepares you. And Coach always visited with us and made sure we, stayed on track and didn't let us get it too down. But, winning the championship as a team is a wonderful thing that, that we can all be a part of now. But, wrestling is wrestling. It's an individual sport. It's what fueled me to go on and have the success that I did in college. And it was all, started here at Fort Morgan. And with Coach's guidance, there's not a coach in any sport that I respect and love more than Stan Lampe. There's a closeness as a team. When you work the way we did and survive his practices, we knew we could battle anyone and come out on top.
1973 state champion Rick Price.
Our practices were grueling. Coach Lampe was there pushing us, and of course we had upperclassmen that were beating up on us, and we were waiting for our chance to get in there and beat up on the younger guys. So it just kind of became a rolling thing where it just went from one year to the next. Stan was a guy that I really looked up to, and as a coach, he was calm during the match. He appeared calm. Inside, there probably were some things going on, but he was never a screamer or a holler, and I always respected his approach. And I tried to emulate that myself as a competitor, and later on when I was coaching, is that you do the work ahead of time and get the kids prepared. And you might talk a little bit about things they need to watch out for or something they might need to prepare for. But going out my senior year when I was kind of begging for a couple of days off, once he said no, that was it. It was gone. It was in the past. It didn't bother me or upset me at all because I knew he had my best interests at heart.
1974 state champion Martin Sills.
Coach Lampe just took us through to where you just had the confidence you needed every time you stepped out on that mat. You just knew that you was going to do your best, and he taught us to do that. Coach would push you hard, but he would push you hard in a way that you'd survive and you'd come out of it stronger mentally, not just physically, but more mentally than physically. The way that he taught us and coached us. I just wasn't going to lose anymore. I just didn't want to have that happen, and Coach had given us that confidence to know that we didn't have to and couldn't be beat. The one thing that sticks out with me with Coach and with probably every other wrestler that wrestled with him was his voice. I can be in a room with 500 people and I can hear him, and I'll say, Coach Lampe's here, and he's got that distinctive voice. You pick that up on the mat too. You remember it.
1979 and 1980 state champion Lance Hokenital.
I think where we had an advantage is Coach Lampe, from top to bottom, oversaw the programs, all the kids programs, the junior high program. He had a hand in that. He knew the coaches. They taught us what we were to learn in high school. And the thing that was amazing about that, we would go do some freestyle tournaments, and we would hit 3 or 4 tournaments in the summer. We would practice. Everything was low-key enough to where we didn't get burned out, but Coach Lampe did a lot of teaching in the summer. We were going back to Coach Lampe's hometown, and in fact, before the match, we'd found his senior picture, and we saw a picture of him in the trophy case, and we were trying to imitate his wrestling stance, and he had hair. That was another thing that was pretty funny, because he was known for, his hairstyle, and we would study everything about him because that's how much we loved him. And, Brian's oldest son, and we would imitate him back and forth. And we would try to see who could do the best imitation of him, but we would not do it to his face because we just respected him way too much, and we still do. I mean, that's something that never leaves, because I've heard other people call him Stan, and I'm sorry, I just can't do it. It's Coach Lampe. It'll always be Coach Lampe. Once in a while, if he wasn't around, I would tell him, and the voice, and they would whirl around, and it'd be me. And there was one day where I wasn't up. Actually, I was up there, but I was on the side of the mat, and I was putting my shoes on, and he comes up the stairs, and they're kind of dinking around before practice, and he yells at them, and they all then they look at me, and they realize it's not Hokenital, it's Coach Lampe. And we got in trouble, and I said, thanks guys, the time I don't do it, you guys, it was kind of like the boy that cried wolf. That's what it was like. And so anyway, that was probably the last time I did it, because they were kind of mad at me for, they thought I got them in trouble. Coach Lampe is the total package when it comes to motivation, training. He could get everything out of any wrestler, and every coach in any sport, that's their goal, is to get the most out of any athlete. He could not only do it with one or two, he could get it out of every kid. And not only was it a privilege and honor, it was a total blessing to be able to wrestle for him. And he was definitely a coach of a few words, but boy, in those pep talks before a match, he got us believing we could walk on water, run through a wall. We would win matches we had no business winning, just because he taught us to believe in ourselves, and that the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Coach Stan Lampe, forever a legend.